Hello, welcome to Veganica channel. Today I'm pleased to open a new series about the existence of God, afterlife, psychic phenomena, ethics, morality, religions. I hope my channel will become your favorite place to discuss such issues. This is the first episode of the series, and in today's video I would like to first of all explain why I find it so important to discuss religions. Although, as you may judge by the name of the channel, it's basically a vegan channel. I also hope that people who are not interested at all in veganism will also find this series interesting, relevant, and find something precious for themselves. I also would like in this first episode present to you my personal stance, because I am sure you want to know whether I am a believer or an atheist or maybe agnostic, whether I will try to impose my belief and my belief system on you, or I will be neutral and just trying to convey rational discussion. And the last and probably most important goal of today's episode is to define God, because just in 3 days I'm going to have my first debate with a very brilliant atheist. So before we start debate, I think we need to define which concept of God we are debating on. So today I will propose several definitions of the word God, and I'm sure even from my side, I would be able to produce many more of definitions, and depending on definitions, I may prove within seconds that God exists or that it doesn't, or the answer will be very difficult to find, depending on definition. Therefore, although you may have seen lots of these kind of debates on existence of God, I think in all the cases when the word God hadn't been defined precisely at the beginning, then the whole further discussion is irrelevant. So me, personally, I've seen many of irrelevant, very poor quality debates on a topic. I hope we can do better, and I will try to do better. I also want you to know, in case you are the first time visiting my channel, please be aware that I am a non-native English speaker, so unfortunately it may happen, and I'm sure it does happen, that sometimes I use improper vocabulary or just make mistakes. I'm sorry about this. Anyway, please stay with me. Why I find it so important and essential to discuss religions as vegan. Neglecting such factors as religions, sexuality, and culture, I personally find as the major reason why we are not as successful as we could be. I mentioned 3 factors, religions, culture, and sexuality, but actually I find religions the most important of them of all, because whether you are aware of it or not, our life is organized by religions, originally have been. Our civilization is based on religious so-called values. Whether you want it or not, whether you admit it or not, whether you are aware of it or not. Carnism, which we are fighting with, has its roots in religions. And this is something which should concern not only vegans, but also other people. Recently, the author of the channel Friendly Atheist presented results of a survey about which group of people are the most discriminated in politics. The question was, what feature would prevent you from voting on, if about a politician? Would it be, for example, declaring as a gay or a candidate of the other race? How about voting for women? How about voting for atheists? And what the survey showed and proved is that atheists are the most discriminated group among politicians. So people not are not as homophobic as atheistophobic. And why is that so? Because I think we can assume that most of people are not really religious. Religions are commonly associated with values. So people are the most doubtful about ethics of the atheists. It is very clear in my country, in Poland, which is basically a religious state. You may call it a Catholic state. And here it is very clear that atheists have very, very small chances to be successful in politics. And probably few of them are allowed to do something. And very often we hear there are only Christian values or no values. So assuming that societies don't know other values than religious values and associate any values or ethics with religions solely and only, then I think it's very important to dig deeper into those values. Look at them. What values are being proposed by the religions governing our world? So, of course, values, ethics, morality, all those topics will be part of this upcoming series I'm introducing today. The next question I want to answer today is what is my personal stance and whether I am going to impose this on you or not. Okay, so personally, I am a believer in the meaning I do believe in God, I do believe in afterlife, and I have pretty rich personal experience of psychic phenomena. I also personally conducted a lot of mental experiments on myself, on other people, on reality in general. I'm also deeply interested in quantum physics, so for sure there will be also elements of science in my reflection about God. On the other hand, I am strongly against dogmatic religions, against all dogmas in general, because I'm sure that whenever someone is coming to you and tells too much about the reality, about the God, is giving too many details about afterlife, for example, for sure everything is false. I'm rather expecting to be surprised in afterlife than to face the reality which has been already perfectly introduced to me before. At the same time, I love thought experiments, so I'm producing a lot of versions of interpretations and visions also of afterlife to be ready to act very fast when I get there and to realize which option is it I am the closest to. So what I believe that we can only slightly approach to the truth, but we will never reach it as long as we are here and either after death. Actually, I don't believe that immediately after we die, the whole truth is revealed to us. I don't think so. I think we will need to do further research. There are more reasons why I am strongly against all organized religions. Religions made very false associations. They are very manipulative. I think intentions were wrong at the first place. But you will see what I mean very soon. So I describe myself as a believer, free thinker, strongly against all religions and strongly against being stuck just to one version or one interpretation. I support very open thinking, very open discussion. I am open to doubts and many versions, possible versions. So I will never say that I believe that the reality is such. I will always give only higher or lower probability of a certain version. So I will say rather, this could be, this is possible solution, this is possible scenario, and I'm only giving higher or lower percentage of probability to certain visions and interpretations. And what I can promise you right now, that I will never try to impose my belief on you, because I have no intention, and I'm completely indifferent whether you are or you will become a believer after all, or an atheist. I'm completely indifferent. What I hope, by initiating this series, I hope that while talking about God, while discussing afterlife and our perspective for future life, and also discussing religions, ethics, morality, I hope to provoke you to more profound reflection on life, on values. On the other hand, I'm also welcoming warmly and tenderly all the people who are afraid of death, or maybe who are grieving right now after losing somebody close. Maybe it could be even a pet, maybe your dog or another animal. I would like to share with you more solid hope. If getting rid of fear of death, of dying, will be a side effect of our meetings, I will be glad. That's also one of my intentions, because if you suffer a horrible fear of dying, of death, maybe you are suffering unnecessarily. I want to share with you what makes me, personally me, feeling so relaxed and so unafraid of it. And hopefully the reasons I will share with you will be way more solid than religions are offering. Okay, like I said, in a few days I have the first debate with an atheist, and I want to start with definition of God. So let's start with it. My first definition. God is a certain concept which almost all, if not all, people on the earth are familiar with. To whomever in the world you pronounce the word God in their language, all the people in the world will know what you are talking about. This is the first definition. Concept which does exist in all or almost all human minds on the planet. So the first definition, and you can see that within 1 minute I was able to prove the existence of God. Does God as a concept with which people are familiar with, exist? Does it exist in human minds? Yes, it does. That means God exists. But of course, we want to do better than this. So let's move to the second definition. Please be aware that there's something interesting about the word God. We always consider God as a noun, someone, something. How about if we approach this phenomenon if we consider God as a verb? If we try to think about what God is doing, what state He is in, it can be a verb in passive form. Probably it will be, because my answer, and I think it's one of the best definitions of God, is that the God is subject to your worship. God is subjected to worship. Think about it. Actually, it's one of the most accurate definitions of God, and also it's one of the definitions of God you will find in the Bible. God as a subject of your devotion, worship. Can we call Him, or it, maybe it is it, not Him, the top of your hierarchy of values? I think so. Maybe we may call it and consider it as projection of your best features or your desirable features, your own self of your dreams. But above all, it is a representation of your own personal values. What do you value the most? I can tell you what is my God. what values me personally I worship. For sure, this will be justice. Without justice, there is no goodness. Because to be good, first you must be just. So you see how obviously for me as a vegan is that God must be vegan in a way. I don't mean his diet, of course not, but his mindset must be purely vegan. I also worship generosity, which means giving more than your children are asking for. Therefore, I am so brave in speaking to God directly, in asking him big things, great things. Moreover, this concept of God, which I am introducing to you right now, is actually the concept which I was taught in the church, because I grew up in the church and went very, very deeply into Christian philosophy, theology. I grew up on mystic texts. I even was a nun for a period of time in a contemplative, very strict order. In church, I was said, take your best features and then extend them, to make them bigger. So you will see reflection of God. In church, I was taught, think of the best people you have ever met and their best features. All of those are the reflection of God, because we are not good by ourselves, but all our best features are the reflection of God. So if I take my features, yes, I am a generous person, very tender, and justice is the first thing we must consider before we are good. Being good without being fair makes no sense. So according to what I was taught in the church, God is such as well. And actually also Jesus described God similar way. So being vegan is absolutely required if you think about Christianity. All right, but let me introduce to you or prove that this definition of God is one of definition of God coming from the Bible, because a Bible, actually, I see in the Bible several definitions of God. So whenever Bible is talking about God, and whenever we discuss God in biblical sense, we must be aware that there are several concepts of God introduced by the Bible. But okay, let me read. I must tell you that this biblical language for me is a bit weird, you know. I think it's not contemporary English. Probably you know it better. For example, the shalt. I don't know what. I guess it's shall. I know this text in my language, in Polish, of course. But let's read. Though shall, I don't know even how to read it, shall, have no other gods before me. Thou shalt, okay, but look at this first sentence. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. So, do you agree that gods are defined in more or less similar way as I have just defined gods as a representation of your values? I'm pasting this text so you can see. It's very difficult for me to read this language though, and I am reading the third paragraph. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, not serve them, for I, the Lord, thy God, am a jealous God. So, unlike other gods, I am jealous God. This God is contrasting himself with other gods. And so we already see another concept. There are gods which are the representation of someone's values. And there is God who call himself as the existing one, Yahweh, yes? I am who I am, that's how we translate it to Polish. And so he's contrasting himself with other gods. And moreover, we see personal features of this particular God who is introducing himself as the existing one. And we see he is a jealous one. He's going to take revenge of people who worship other gods as well. So we see a very particular personality. So even from the Bible, we see several definitions, yes, of God. And I would analyze Yahweh as a God as a next concept of God to which can be a subject of our further debates, whether this God, whether Yahweh exists. I am ready for this debate. I will see which definition of God my opponent is going to choose. So if she chooses Yahweh as a topic of our debate, I am ready to discuss whether Yahweh, exactly this God, whether this God exists. Because this is completely different topic, whether Yahweh exists. Then you can ask whether Yahweh is the same God as Christian God. Because, for example, Jesus is introducing completely different personality of the God he is introducing to us. So is it still the same person? Completely different personality. Moreover, I see a huge gap and contrast between Jesus' teaching and Christianity. Look even at this text. This God, Yahweh, from this text, Old Testament, doesn't respect human life. He is going to take revenge. He doesn't recognize children as innocent. From many other parts of the Bible, we know that this God recommends killing kids, also killing pregnant women, or removing the child inside. I don't know how to say, but you know what I mean. What I want to say, that the God of pro-life Christians is completely different God with different hierarchy, with different values than this God. Pro-life Christians' God is not the same as biblical God. Moreover, what will you tell about national gods? Let's talk about international conflicts. For example, 20th century. As you know already, I'm from Poland. We experienced horrible events in my country. And all Polish were praying to God to rescue us, to save us, and so on, and to win the enemy. And Polish are Christians. At the same time, the Pope was giving his blessing to Germans and was blessing their invasion on Poland. So was the God that Polish were praying to the same God whose blessing the Pope was conveying to Germans? Our politicians always do everything on behalf of God, at least in Poland. I'm sure in other countries like USA probably too, maybe less than in Poland especially. I really wonder whether the God of right-wing parties is the same God as left-wing parties, because they always pray to God and they always are trying to establish their own order on behalf of God. Maybe you are not even aware that officially Jesus has become a king of Poland, officially, by decision of our parliament. Politicians are always speaking on behalf of God. They are doing lots of horrible things on behalf of God. In my country, torturing animals is being promoted by the church, and it's being done on behalf of God. And I strongly oppose to this. And I'm also speaking on behalf of God. So you see how many gods we may find among Christianity only. Not long time ago, I was a visitor on the Primal Edge Health channel, which is promoting meat and religion. But there was something interesting there, because what really shocked me, because I realized that not only that we have so many contradictions in concept of God and Christian values inside the church, but he went very, very far, describing Catholic Church as the Church of Satan. And he said that Orthodox Church is the only proper one representing God. Moreover, there are some more very, very interesting motives in that discussion, like describing some parts of Bible, so-called Holy Bible, as of satanic origin. So we see how huge differences we have among Christians only. And how about other religions? Is Allah the same God as Yahweh or a Christian God? I don't think so, because a Muslim God has a completely different vision of human being, of our destination, of our final goal, and a completely different concept of happiness. So those two completely different way of thinking cannot be compromised within just one personality. Those are very, very different visions. So I think I will also cover this topic in a separate episode, what I think about Muslim God, whether it does exist or not, although I'm not very familiar with Islam, but based on common knowledge, what we know, I think we can already make some conclusions. For sure, in my series, I will focus much more on the Bible and Christianity. How about Krishna? What values, what hierarchy the God is becoming different? Indian guys are so, that their God must be, above all, super attractive. This is what I heard from Krishna's devotees. What is the proper word? I don't know. I'm not sure at the moment. They said that he must be the most attractive being in the world. Therefore, he is always presented as blue. For me, for Christians, attractiveness is probably not the major feature when talking about God, because we have different values. So we rather describe God as love, justice. Yes, we are different. Our values are different. So we see that always, whenever people describe their God, it's usually it means their top values, their projection of their most desirable features. Okay, the next concept, the next definition of God. God as a creator of the universe. At least this universe, or maybe multiverse. And I give it as a completely separate definition of God. Why? Because when discussing whether this world, this universe, has been created or not, this discussion should be really separated from all religions. If my opponent chooses to discuss the concept of God as a creator, I hope we will be very far away and we won't let any influence of religions on our discussion. Because religions are defining too many things and creating too many links which shouldn't be done. Like, for example, being a creator of the universe for them means automatically being creator, creating us, or creating us in God's image, or creating us and a special species, or even creating the world especially for us. No, we must break this link and talk about those things completely separately. Because the concept of God as a creator of this universe or multiverse can be completely different concept of God as, for example, our creator, or any higher entity which can influence our life. Can you imagine such a reality that there is a God who is a creator of the universe, and there are, for example, one or many other higher entities which can influence our life, can somehow initiate our evolution or whatever? Because for me, I can easily imagine such a situation, and I would never make a link between creating the universe and being our father, or having any particular relationship with us as human, or having any relationship, because I would completely break this link. Being a creator of a universe doesn't mean at all that the God has to have any relationship with us, or being a part of history, or get involved with our history, or ever intervene our history. It might be the case, but doesn't have to. So I am personally praying, and I would even say I'm praying to the God, but in fact, I have no idea who is listening to my prayers, and I have no idea what is the mechanism that my prayers are being fulfilled after all. I can easily imagine that there might be other entities who have some power. It could be even me, myself, I am contacting with. So I'm very far from defining mechanism, how it works or why it works. I'm only as an observer that several things are working. They do work. So I also want to present in this upcoming series, my personal experience, what I did and what worked or what were the results. But I will never try to interpret too much. I have no rights to very precise interpretation. What are the reasons? Or I can imagine that whenever I'm praying, probably I'm appealing to those entities who are very close to me emotionally, who share my sensitivity, for whom also those issues are important, who care about me maybe. But also it could be myself, because for me, the question of God is the same intriguing and same difficult to answer as a question of very own self. Who am I? I'm sure we don't know who we are. All right, so the concept of God as a creator was the next concept, and the next concept, which I already have just introduced, is a higher entity which can influence our life, or which can have power above us. For example, according to this definition, I can say that I am a God for my guinea pigs, because I have the power to decide about their lives. Moreover, I am the highest power they know and they perceive. They don't know other God than me. So whenever they don't understand the situation, for example, some sound scares them, so they automatically are calling me, and they look and wait for my reaction. yeah, they look at my reaction to see whether everything is okay or can they feel safe or not. So I always show like it's okay. So then they keep feeling safe and happy and so on. So they are coming to me with every question, with every doubt. They always look at my reaction in every situation which they find new. Probably it might be a new smell, maybe from the outside, a new sound or whatever. So they don't know other God than me. I am the highest entity they know. We are gods for the animals we are taking care of and we are responsible for. We are also gods for farms, animals, in agriculture. Now imagine the situation. The pig is going to a slaughterhouse. They see their God in human. They perceive human as their God. They look at their God and asking, God, what do you have for me? What will you do to me? What are your purposes towards me? And they receive from their God what they receive. Now think, some people are neglecting profound reflection on religions or afterlife. But if afterlife exists, if the God is just, fair as he is described by Jesus, by the church, Christianity, is it the case that the higher entity above human is supposed to give to the human the same fate which the human gave to lower entities as their God? Please tell me how a slaughterhouse worker can pray to the God for a good faith and mercy on him when he himself as a God is not giving this to the other being he is responsible for, he's supposed to take care of. We are gods also, not only to animals. How about small children? Do you remember being a small child, and do you remember this impression that your parents know everything and they know solution for every problem? They are so powerful, they will solve all your problems. Do you remember this? Many children admit that their parents know everything. So in a way, every parent is a God for his little child. And look what happens next when the child is growing and he realizes their parents are not as powerful as they thought. Then they start searching for the next parent. So also we have the next definition of God as an ultimate parent. But we should never make this link that the God, Creator, and the God, our Father, are the same one thing. We can consider this, we can talk about it, but we shouldn't do it automatically. That God, Father, no, those are two completely different things that we can discuss. Okay, I think maybe that's enough as for the beginning. Thank you very much for your attention so far. And I hope you will follow me on the channel. At least once a month I will get back to this series, maybe more often. But also in many other episodes, not at all related to God, and very often I tend to get back to those topics, to religions, to God, because yes, I feel it so much, and I find it so much related with veganism. Another information that this channel is basically Polish-English channel, so I'm trying to make at least each second video, make English video. In future I will separate those two languages, so just for your information, yes, that you may expect each second video to be English video, and sometimes this rhythm is distorted by, for example, some special situation or whatever event or whatever. Thank you very much and see you soon. Bye bye.